You're almost getting ready to graduate with your PhD. Who's excited? Yeah? Well, the dean of our PhD program, Dr. Lua Hancock.
All right. Well, we have had a busy day on campus today. If you haven't heard from our students, this morning we did have a student who had a medical emergency, and everything is fine, but you might hear from them because it happened during a session when all the students were there. So everything is being taken care of and everything was fine, but that's what we're trained for. That's what we got. We're ready. Public safety was there, and we jumped right in. So if you do hear about that, I just wanted to announce that publicly. So this is it. I'm not going to tell you again how much you shouldn't be in their business because that by now that's your own decision. But I did just want to run through a few closing items, and then if you guys have any last questions, there'll be a bunch of us hanging out after you get your diplomas. So I want to show you a little bit, just in closing, a video that we use. And today a lot of people ask, like, do the students see what I'm seeing right now? Because it'd be good if the students saw what I'm seeing. They do. Someone asked about, like, the T-shaped professional career. I show that slide to them tomorrow. I talk to them about some of the safety stuff. So I spend some time with them tomorrow. If you want any of them to meet with me right after my session, they do go meet their faculty in their majors. And if they don't know which major they want, they just go pick one and kind of get, so it is kind of a quite quick turnaround. But any of them who haven't yet met me will meet me tomorrow. So that'll be fun. And we talked to them a little bit about this philosophy. So I thought I would show you what we're also going to show them. So later you can be like, remember that? So this is what we show them. Oh.
Whoa, that's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something? Help! I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
Well, there's not enough left to do, is there?
Hello? Hey, don't worry about it. I'll fix it in a second.
He said he can fix it. All right. All right. That's more like it. He says he can fix it.
All right, you laugh, but y'all have done that. You know you've done that, right? Come on. Never, not any age in your life ever, have you been like, oh my God. So a couple nights ago, my son was laying on the couch and he was like, I need a glass of water. I think I'm dehydrated. And I was like, cool, get up and get yourself a glass of water. I can't even, my legs are sore. I was like, no, if you're that thirsty, you can get up and get yourself a glass of water. I'm like, this is my dramatic son I was telling you about. And then he's like, I'm going to run outside and play soccer now. That's what I thought. Everything's fine when you got the motivation. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about when I work with students, what I'm trying to assess is if there is a skill gap or a will gap, because those are two different things. So if there's a skill gap, we got all kind of stuff for them. We have tutors, we have time management coaches, we have everything else. If there is a gap in their willingness to try, that is much harder to repair and much harder to close. And we talk to them about why they're procrastinating and what's going on. I try to set goals with them, but that is much more challenging for us, honestly, is to work with a student who's just not motivated to want to do it. We got to figure out what is going to motivate them. So we try tricks like we're going to put a bunch of stuff in your backpack. You're not going to go back to your room in between classes. You're going to go to this place and study, and then you're going to come. So we try different things because there are times when I'm not motivated either. I get it. Like, I wrote my dissertation. It's not like every day I was like, woohoo, let's write my dissertation. That wasn't like my motivation. So I had music that I used, certain places that I sat. Does anybody have like a work zone that's like yeah, I had like my zone. Like that was my cocoon. And even if I didn't feel like it, if I went in there and turned on the music and like sat there for a few minutes, then the hardest part for students who have a will gap is getting started. Once I can get them started, they actually get on a roll and they don't want to stop. But it's that getting started piece. I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about theory of working with millennial students or Generation Z students. So that's what this current generation is, Generation Z. They have all been born after I went to college, which they made it clear. Last year was the first time a student was like, oh my God, you're the same age as my mom. I was like, awesome, thank you. So, thank you. We're both so cool and young, aren't we? So, I have officially crossed over. They see me as one of you. I like to think I don't. I also, some of you have asked, like, could the students get to know you too? Sure. I teach spin at the gym also because I have like an unnecessary amount of energy. So my husband's like, go use it for good, not evil. So I teach spin at the gym and I teach yoga on campus. So I'll meet a bunch of them. But in looking at this generation, and this was Time Magazine last year, the me, the selfie generation, I want to talk a little bit about what is annoying about them, which you might know because you live with them, and what is awesome about them, because I think in our society, sometimes teenagers get a bad rep, actually. There's this age where you're productive and you're worth something, but if you're younger than that or older than that, our society doesn't really know what to do with you. So this generation, people will ask me all the time, like, oh my gosh, how do you work with 18-year-olds all day? You feel like you're babysitting? I'm like, no, first of all, they're awesome. Most of them don't feel like they know everything. Maybe to you they do, but to me they don't. They're actually open to thinking, I've never heard that before. Tell me more about that, or that kind of thing. They are used to much more convenience and speed and lack of depth. Obviously, that is a technological issue. Your life and technology and their life and technology are two tremendously different things. So I was dating, I always say this weird, at the time he was my boyfriend, he's now my husband. So sometimes I'm like, I was dating my boyfriend, and then my husband. People are like, whoa, that's a lot of information she's sharing. Same person, used to be my boyfriend in college, now is my husband. So my boyfriend in college, when we first got email accounts, actually in our master's program, he was like, this is so stupid. Don't even email me because this is gonna die out. No one's gonna use this. I still tell him about this. So don't even email me because it's so stupid. So he works in communications. Yeah, on email all day. So it's just a different thing. The global connection is a different thing. There are times even when I have to pause and be like, I am on Facebook talking to my friend right now who is in Israel. Like I have to like pause and be like, that was not possible in this way when we were born. So that amount of access to other humans, to interconnectedness to the world is just a different thing than people are used to. They are very connected and they feel very isolated. So technological connection is different than human connection. It cannot be used to replace, but they do feel very connected and like they know a lot of people. There's a book called Bowling Alone, if you're interested in this topic, which is really interesting about how bowling leagues used to like be a big thing. My parents used to take me one in South Dakota and I'd like watch Dukes of Hazzard at the bar and they'd go bowling. Remember these days? Sharing too much, South Dakota. There wasn't a lot to do, people. So that's what we would do. But now there's a phenomenon where more and more people, they did this big study at bowling alleys, go by themselves bowling. And that's like supposedly this sign that like as humanity we're dying because people are bowling alone. But you should read this book. It's really interesting. So they are both connected and isolated. One thing I find really interesting about them is that they have not lived in a world with a lot of binaries. Like there's been a lot of interracial, there's been a lot of across geography. They can connect with people across boundaries internationally. So there is a lot more for them of less black and white, a lot of gray area. They're more used to the gray area. For example, one of the examples that I use is gender. We have students on campus who are transgender. Other students have never met a person who is transgender. A lot of people have never met a person who is outwardly talking about the fact that they're transgender. And transgender was kind of the last thing, right? Like, you are a man or you are a woman. So, but the binary concept, or you have to choose, or this group is a little more okay in the gray area. It drives some older people crazy. But these are all generational differences. I'm going to talk for a minute about developmental differences. But these are all generational differences. They believe that they know a lot about diversity. In reality, most of them don't know that much about diversity. It's like if you're my age, you remember like Nancy Reagan had like a frying pan and she put eggs in it and that was your brain on drugs? Does anybody remember that? Of course you do, right? That was your brain on drugs. Any questions? I'm like, no. Oh, God, don't. Oh, you should never do drugs. The reality is that war on drugs never changed drug behavior of youth, by the way. But you all know what this is when I'm talking about it. Like, if you're raised in this culture, you know, frying pan, brain drugs, any questions? No. Thank you, Nancy. Like, that's what we know. This is kind of the level that this group knows about diversity. They've heard a lot about it for the most part. They know that it's important. They know that they're a diverse generation. They know that our communities are becoming minority communities. But once you start to interact with their big 8, which we're talking to them about in a couple days, which are race, ethnicity, what the differences between those two are, socioeconomic status, which there's a lot of socioeconomic status diversity here. They don't understand that in any depth, really, how that shapes their own perceptions, how that has them interact with the world. So they understand it at a kind of base level. They believe they are very loyal, compassionate, determined, and open-minded. They have differences in employment expectations than the market. And it's interesting to see what some jobs are doing about that. Employers, and if you are an employer and you employ younger people, it's very easy to think like, oh, they're just slackers, or they're frustrated, or they whatever. But again, things are very gray. Like, actually, this group is more willing to work during hours when they don't have to work, but they also then want to hang out and do stuff during hours when they're supposed to be at work. So like, hours of work is a thing that's changed over time. Some companies are like, no, that's called professionalism. Put on a suit and go to work. And other companies are like, all right, as long as you work this amount of hours and get the product done, I don't care where you are, I don't care what you do, I don't care what you wear, you can do whatever as long as you get the job done. So there's a lot of debate about this. We spend some time talking to employers about the millennial generation, but even our generation, I mean, when I think about it, easy for me to look at them and say, oh, you expect all of this. At one point, I looked at the 10 students that I graduated from college from, including my husband, 5 couples. I am the only one who goes to a physical job location 5 days a week out of those 10. I'm the only one. So sometimes we think, oh, this has changed so much, our kids. Your own friends, or you yourself. My husband's a faculty member. He teaches some online and some in person, so he goes and teaches class, but the rest of it's online. I have a friend who works for IBM. Her entire group who works for her is in China. She works in the middle of the night at home with a headset in her jammies, and she's very professional and she's very successful, but the work life has changed for a lot of people. An organization, Citibank, I don't think I told you guys this yet, but Citibank changed to where now, hiring new employees, you can request, if you've been there 5 years or more, a sabbatical year where you get paid your same salary and you work overseas or domestically in one of their community engagement. So instead of just giving money to philanthropy, they now say to different youth teaching agencies and elderly agencies, we'll give you people, and they pay their salary. And when you ask them why they do that, it's because they want to employ and retain this young generation who feels like there is no separation between work and helping people. That is not a separation for them. If you look at the data, Reagan, everybody wanted to make more money, right? So it's a very materialistic trend, and then people wanted to help people, and now people want to do both. And students don't believe that you have to make a separation. It's called the Tom Shoes phenomenon, right? Tom Shoes was kind of the first big one, you can make all this money and give shoes to someone else. Look, capitalism and socialism at the same time, yay. So that's what they believe. And there's probably other things that you've noticed. I will tell you though, let me just to go back for a second, there also is generational theory. So sometimes we get into very every generation is different, but developmental theory says 18-year-olds are 18-year-olds are 18-year-olds are 18-year-olds. So if we pause for a minute, get over ourselves and look back at ourselves as 18. One of you in this room today told me your college experience was like Animal House. I'm not gonna point you out, but if you think about yourself at 18, sometimes this was overwhelming and you know, in your 40s or 50s self can look back at your child and be like, oh, so much for you to learn. But I was a mess. Like, I don't know about any of you. Like, I pretty much got it together. A few of you have said you like my dress. Like, it's all good. But at that age, like, I just was like kind of emotionally and energetically trying to figure it out. I was a total mess. So there's a Socrates quote that basically says the youth of our generation are selfish and only care about themselves. And he wrote in like BC or something. So basically the point of that is that there are just phases you have to go through. There is this theory about your past self and your future self. And if you look back on your past self, you almost don't remember yourself like you almost can't connect with who you were in college. I have this problem. Like, plus we didn't have iPhones. Thank God, because I don't need all that floating around on social media. And it's hard to connect with your future self. So they say if you want to be better to your future self, just a tip for you, they can do pictures of what you would look like in the future. And if you look at a picture of what you'll look like in the future, you plan for your retirement better and you eat healthier and whatever, because you're like connected with yourself in the future. This is true. Rena's laughing at me, but it's true. I just had this conversation with a faculty member the other day who's like, I love my future self so much that when I get home, I like pack my lunch and I was like, what? I hadn't thought about it like that. I just kind of thought like, I packed my lunch. Now I'm like packing my lunch, thinking all deep. Okay. So here's some things to understand. This generation has been much more coddled and protected. There was a liability boom. Like, I played on a playground made of rusty nails. Like, I don't know if you played on the same playground I played on, but like you could jump off the top of the thing and like no one told me I shouldn't do that. Like, it was awesome to be a kid in the 70s too. Like, it was great. Like, I just had a great, you know, and now it's like you cannot do that. Every playground, that playground will be shut down. I will call my attorney because he just got tetanus on your play. Like, none of that was a real thing, and we all played out in the street, and we all played with our friends, and you got hurt, and that's what happened. This group, and I'm a parent, so I get it. Like, on one hand, I want to be like, that's cool, free-range parenting, go do what I did. On the other hand, I'm like, could you bring your cell phone and be home by 7:45? So it's just changed a lot. Not good or bad, but it is different. So this group is used to a lot more connection with their parents, and they are used to a lot more of this coddling. And I was joking today because I had this slide that I actually took out that told you again, like, about how to maybe be a little more separated. I was thinking about it this morning on the way here as I was talking to my mom on the phone. And I was like, okay, we're going to just stop the judgment for a minute. Okay. So here's also, they want to help others, they want to make a living, they want to understand, they want to be creative in their entrepreneurship. And actually, in employment, they can. Not every one of them can like come up with something and do it, but there are more independent people who are making, like my kids watch these YouTubers, and that's what they do, like for their job, is they're YouTubers, right? What is up with that? But they are making more money than I am because I looked one of them up. I was like, who is this 20-year-old punk who's constantly yelling at my children on YouTube? And he is doing all right by himself. So there is this belief. We have a student who just graduated who started a fashion blog. She is already doing very well as a blogger. Like, there are creative things that you can do. There are also creative niches in industry. So we have a group of students right now who's working in Orlando on hydroponic agriculture, and so they work on old strip malls that are kind of abandoned, urban blight, and they strip the strip malls empty and they put hydroponic grow inside, not of something illegal. They hydroponic grow. That's what we're used to when we hear hydroponic grow. That's not what it is. They grow like tomatoes and strawberries and whatever, and then they bring healthy, fresh food to neighborhoods that in the past have had food resource difficulty, right? These kids were talking to me in my office last year, and I was like this. You do what? And they're very successful doing this, and they work whatever hours they want to work, and they get grants, and they write grants, and so some of this is funded federally. I've just been super impressed with them, but that creative thinking, that outside-of-the-box thinking. Sometimes when they graduate, they get frustrated because that's not going to be their first job. They're not going to graduate and just jump into something like that. It takes a while. You got to take a job, move up, see what's out there, be creative, that kind of thing. Again, internships. So this is the law. I just thought I'd put it up here in case like one of you eventually like thinks I made it up. Like I can't give you information if your student's over 18 unless you have a signed record with us. And usually we work it out. But I will tell you that we will call you if there is a significant concern for their health or safety. I'm not gonna not call you if they are unconscious on the way to the hospital. I'm going to call you in that case. I might not individually, but my on-call team, there's a couple high-level on-call people. Larry is one of them, the director of Res Life who was here. Jessica's one of them. Myself or our dean of students who's on maternity leave, Lynn, will call you if there's a significant concern with their health and safety. And we have an on-call team that has different layers, and I'm the top layer. Also, I just want to mention Greek life because sometimes people also don't understand Greek life. On our campus, I've been extremely impressed with Greek life because Rush for some of them is coming up pretty soon, and you might be like, I don't know what to do with that when they call me. Our Greek students do have higher GPAs. They do give more money and hours for community service. They do graduate at higher rates, partially because they find a social group. Now, I'm not a proponent of it or not. There's plenty of students who don't do it, who are very successful. But I also, if your student wants to try it, they should try it. They should just walk around at least the socials and see what they think. They don't have to go any further than that. But if they want to, the group here I've been very impressed with. They're very focused on community and philanthropy. And not that there's not ever a party, because I'm not going to lie to you, but that's not the main focus of our Greek life on this campus. I've been really impressed with them. Also, I mentioned this before, but we do believe that learning happens everywhere, that students should be engaged in their learning environment. So I'll give you some examples. Our students who are accounting students are offered to be able to do taxes for people in our community who need help with their taxes who can't afford an accountant. So they do something called the VITA program, where in the business school, we do tax relief for local people for about 6 weeks. We processed over $1 million in taxes for people last year in the community. And this is our favorite thing to do, is find a community need and a university place where our students need learning and put the two together. It's a win-win situation. Faculty member, instead of teaching, floats around and helps them with the problems. They will remember that more than they will remember a taxing and accountancy course. I promise you that. They will remember that. Our upper division Spanish students teach English on this campus at a little house called Casita that was opened by one of our faculty members to farm workers, adults and children, and that is their lab for their Spanish class. They will remember that, and they will hear Spanish from native speakers, not just from the textbook or your classroom. They'll hear it, they'll interact with the language in a really purposeful way. Those are just some examples. I know sometimes that for many of you are making a very, very large financial sacrifice to be here. But if there's any way you can work out things like internship or study abroad, we want to work with you to work those out. Because if you've had those experiences, they change your life. And that's what we want for the students to be able to experience. Classroom learning is great, but these engaged experiences, we know that that's where it really happens. They choose to be a leader of a club or organization. They choose to start a sport on campus. This is where they really dig into their learning. So over the summer, for example, and Tim might have mentioned this, internships are only $500 to get a full unit of credit. We've made it as cheap as possible. That's just to cover the cost to run the program. So all students should figure out a way to do that, either at home with you or here. Some of them do it every summer. Some of them have to work a summer job, so we work it out during the year, whatever we can do to work that out for them. In undergrad, I studied abroad in Uganda, and there are just moments, we're talking decades later, where I can remember a guy in Rwanda in the 90s, he didn't know that there was a movie about them, standing there telling me, at the time I was living in South Florida, he's like, "You live in Miami? Miami is dangerous." I was like, "Dude, we're in Rwanda." But that moment stuck with me for my whole life because his daily life experience was actually not what I thought it was, and my daily life experience was not what he thought it was. And we were able to have this really cool conversation with him basically about the stereotypes that we had of each other and our lives, and it was awesome. And then the next year I was able to go with a faculty member and work with farm workers in Apopka, 20 minutes from here, and that blew my mind just as much because when I went to Africa, I expected to see some of the poverty that I saw. I didn't expect to see some of the overwhelming love and amazing things I saw there, but when I went to Apopka 20 minutes down the road, I was living in Winter Park at the time, I didn't expect to see what I saw there. I didn't expect it. It changed my life to go that close to my community and see the issues that my community was having. So encourage your students to do that. I was 100% outside of my comfort zone. I was living with a family who spoke Spanish. I was sleeping on the floor. I was eating food that I had no idea what it was. I was a vegetarian. They had killed a chicken. I was like, we eat the chicken. Like, let's not be rude. I was just in it. It was awesome, but it shaped me, who I am. It changed me in some way. If you've had those experiences, you know what they are. So this is the time to do them, because you know once you have kids, it's way harder to do it. So I do it now. There is an organizational fair. I had mentioned it before. They know about it, but it's next weekend, because I just like to work like 9 years in a row during August. And we are going to be going through some construction. This is what the back of the Union building will look like shortly. So if your students are coming in now, this will happen while they're here. And hopefully we have kept the construction to where it'll have very little impact on any of their experiences except for positively. So they're helping us pick the furniture and everything else. But if they do ever have any questions, or you do, stetson.edu/construction will always have the most up to date of what's happening or going on in that building. I work on that communication plan. This is our Dean of Students. That's her little kid. That's why she's not here. So that's our Dean of Students in Ashby. So I mention her because if you don't interact with me, you'll interact with her a lot. And she has office hours every week. And when she's not here, we cover them. So if your student has a question and they're like, it's not urgent, but I just kind of want, they always can hit us up. We just sit in the rocking chairs and hand out ice cream and talk to whoever. So that's always an option. So we will take a few big picture questions. If it's about your own personal child, stay after and I'll chat with you. And then we'll graduate you. But yes, sir. So when they register, there should be plenty of time between when they register and between when classes start. So like they'll register this October for next January for you guys to get the reading list of all the books. The bookstore has them. You can choose if you want to use the bookstore or not, but a lot of people do. And it really depends on their major. I have to be honest. Some majors, book-wise, are much more expensive. Health sciences is still more expensive. If anybody has sitting around like in their house a Bio 1 book that's like this big and costs $200. So it depends. Books for students cost anywhere between $150 to $450 a semester. And so you can go to the bookstore, which is open actually today until 5, and they have a book list for each one of the classes if you still haven't worked that out. And what I would do, though, if you are struggling financially, the 2 places where I tell students to try not to cut back is on food, because they'll be like, can I just cut back my meal plan? And I'm like, no, because you have to eat. And we do have an emergency food pantry on campus, unfortunately, because we do need it. So that is there for them, but I'd rather them not have to depend on it all the time. And secondly is on books. They think like, oh, no big deal. I'll just try to borrow from a friend and whatever. I have just found that to be too stressful on them to try to navigate that while they're trying to, like, it just adds one more thing in the mix. So if at all possible, see if you can work out just purchasing all of the books for them. There might be an optional reading list for the class. You can hold off on those, but for the texts that are certain to the class, I would go ahead and do it. Yeah, did you have a question? Yes. The only time you physically have to move is summer. That's it. Thanksgiving, we're open, so your student can stay if they want to stay. We do have a big Thanksgiving dinner on campus as well. The holidays, they are supposed to move out approximately 24 hours after their last final. If there's some issue with like flights or whatever, then we can work that out. But we do close over. Now, if you have a student who needs housing all year long, talk to us. And, we do have some summer housing for students and that type of thing. But the only time that they'll have to move out completely is over the summer. And the housing director will be here for graduation, and he'll hang out after. So if you guys have additional housing questions. One thing you do need to know and look up, if people haven't told you, the exam schedule is a little bit different than their class schedule, because exams are longer. So you can't just have the exact class schedule because they might overlap with each other. So look at the exam schedule online and make sure that you know when their last exam is. It's already up there. It's online. It's on the registrar's webpage or the academic calendar. Both of those places it's there. But you want to make sure that you understand when their last thing is. It'll say like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, class at 9. Exam is Thursday, December 12th at noon. So you'll see it on there. It's like a clear map, but you just want to make sure that you understand and that they understand. Every semester, no matter how much I say this to students, send them emails, send you emails, someone misses their first exam because they thought it was the time of their class, even though the faculty member says it, I say it, everyone says it, so make sure with that. Yeah, if they want to be an exchange student, either coming in, because I know some of you here have students who are here, or going abroad, we have a center called World, just like the world. And there are, Burt Fish is the road that's right behind the Union building. So there's a road called Burt Fish, and on that road are some little houses. Student Counseling, Center for Community Engagement, and World is on that street. So they'll be open this week, too, if you want to stop by and see them. So I'll hang out after for any questions. Yes? Okay. I have had so much fun with you guys, and it's been fun seeing you interact with us on Facebook. So feel free to continue to do that. I do check that, but it's not like I have it on next to my bed either. So if you have an emergency, don't use Facebook, please, because I'm not always exactly on there all the time. But we're so happy to have your new Hatters. And I tell people all the time, this is one of the best attended parent orientations at our type of institution. And partially it's because you get a diploma. Let's not lie. But partially it's because our parents are engaged in what their students are doing. You care about what they're doing. You care about what we're doing for them. And you should. Outside of potentially... well, Lord knows you're not having another child, but outside of having a child, she's like, please, God, no. I said the same thing, I would lay down in traffic. I can't even, outside of I love my children, but we're done. Outside of having another child or owning a home, this is one of the biggest financial and time investments that you and your child make. We take that very seriously. I understand that. And so you taking the time to be I want to fully understand it, and I have some questions, and I want to talk more about it, that's our job. That's why we're here. So don't apologize. Don't have your child apologize before they ask me a question. Just ask the question, because you already paid for it. Free questions. Just saying. I'm going to wear a shirt. So I am free to talk to you whenever you want to talk to me. And we're happy to do it. So we're super excited for you guys to be here. And I hope by the end of today that you feel this, that you never really know until you know, and then you know. So I hope you know. And we're going to have fun with them. So I'll hand this back over.